Hello everyone, Happy New Year and all that. I hope you had a good one, or as much as possible in the circumstances last night. Welcome to the preview for Game Week 9 in Champ Man FPL. How was your Game Week 8? I think it went mostly to form, didn't it, in terms of the sim data, but there was definitely some big opportunities in terms of individual players that didn't quite come off, unfortunately. It was a real team effort that got me to 67 in the end. I've treaded water a little bit, down 2 places to rank 38. There were quite a few bench boosts around, I noticed. I was clicking into the teams ranked at the top of the game week, and I noticed that 9 out of the top 20 used a bench boost this week. I don't know if that's sort of typical, because I haven't gone in and sort of looked at that before. But it did seem a decent week for a bench boost. Quite a lot of the cheaper assets had good games. So well played if you bench boost this week and it came off. It seems like it did for most people that did it. Really good result from that. I captained Phillips. I think quite a few people captained Phillips. Looks like he had plenty of shots in the game, but only came out of an assist. I was watching Luke's review earlier, and he definitely could have had more, bit unfortunate. Janssen captainers, I think there were a few percent of those. Unlucky, or sort of double unlucky on Janssen, I think. Unlucky that he wasn't involved in the 2 goals that they did score. And then the early red card sort of made it difficult after that, didn't it? A bit of a kick in the nuts, that one. But if you captained Phillips or Janssen, or went against Rude with someone else that had a strong fixture, don't beat yourself up. It was definitely the right thing to do to go against Rude this week with United's defensive setup. If you keep playing those percentages through the season, it will come off you more often than not. And there is still a long way to go, of course. What else did we get? So we got the crazy Charlton Watford game that we spoke about in last week's preview. Looks again, watching Luke's review, there were so many shots in that game. It could have been 6-all. It could have been really crazy. So that went sort of the way we expected. It was a very open game, plenty of people happy with Yule and Hughes and Petkov getting something. Arsenal saw off Man United, as we spoke about. Again, the way the two teams set up massively suited Arsenal, and they got the win we expected. Leeds and Everton looked good for their home wins in the sim data. We got those. Sunderland 3-0 at home to Millwall, that looked about right. Just a shame Phillips wasn't more in on the action. The Man City Liverpool game was killed by the red card. That was a complete coincidence, by the way. I know in last week's preview, I showed you an example of a Man City versus Liverpool game where the game was killed by a red card, and then it actually went and happened. That was a complete fluke. I had no idea about that, and if I had have known, then I wouldn't have had one drop in my team, which I did. That was a bit of a coincidence. Anyway, on to game week 9. And as is often the case, I've re-simmed this week to try and get things as accurate as possible for you. Luke kindly shared some insights into the team instructions we're seeing in the actual game last week. So I've made a few tweaks based on that. It is little tweaks, and obviously the results of the sim data so far have been really good. But if we can make them even better, then happy days. So on we go then to Arsenal Aston Villa. So team setups. So Arsenal will attack at home as always. Aston Villa will give this game up really. They'll defend. They'll have men behind the ball and they won't bother to counter attack. So we saw this earlier on in the season, didn't we, when Villa went to Old Trafford, and I said that was a week that maybe you could go against Rude, because Villa will be so defensive that they'll probably lose, but they probably won't get battered. That was what the sim data was showing, and that ended up 2-0, I think, didn't it? With 1-0 or 2-0. So it could be something similar here. Arsenal should win the game, but Villa will be so defensive. They might not get battered, but I would definitely expect them to lose. And we see that in the sim data. So Arsenal's average goals is actually a bit better than Man United managed. Maybe Arsenal's passing style unlocks Villa's defence a bit better than United's, maybe. But yeah, Arsenal look good for the win, just over 2 goals a game average. Villa really struggling to score. Lots of blanks. 12 clean sheets out of 20 for Arsenal. That's pretty much as high as you get. 12 or 13 out of 20. You don't very, very rarely see anything higher than that. So yeah, good strong home game for Arsenal. I wouldn't count on anything from Villa this week. In terms of the player stats, so strong home game for Arsenal. Of course, Henry comes out on top. But yes, kind of similar to Ruud van Nistelrooy earlier in the season against Villa. Quite a few ones in there. It's just consistent. And then Perez and Van Bronckhorst, decent picks. Balaban got a high percentage of Villa's odd goals, but yeah, as I say, I wouldn't count on Villa assets at all this week. I would be benching them. Okay, Bolton Sunderland. So Bolton will attack at home. Sunderland won't be too defensive, but they'll have this passive sort of nothing instructions. So yeah, Bolton have got the better tactic for this game, I'd say, and they're coming out on top with that advantage. 14 wins out of 20, really strong. Around about a 50% chance of a clean sheet. Sunderland, they tended to either do nothing or do all right, didn't they? There's only one game where they've scored once, and in the others they've either blanked or they've managed to score a couple. So I mean, if you've got players like Arca and Phillips, can happen. Sunderland, not a complete write-off for Sunderland, but looks good for Bolton. Looks better for Bolton. They've only blanked once out of 20. And they've scored 3 a decent amount of times, haven't they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times they've scored 3. So that's pretty good. So yeah, like Bolton in this one. But as I say, Sunderland not a complete write-off. Player stats, Pedersen and Wallace. I think I saw in Luke's preview that Wallace is orange flagged. So just be careful with that one if you're thinking about bringing him in. Make sure you've got the right information from the official account, or watch Luke's preview, even better. And then Phillips. So there's a few games where Sunderland scored a couple of goals. So Phillips got in on the action a few times. Borough Man City. So Middlesbrough will attack this game at home. Man City will defend away. But it's not as bad as Villa's tactic. They will counter-attack. But it still looks good. It still looks good for Borough, really. 15 wins out of 20, 12 clean sheets. Yeah, this is a strong game for Middlesbrough, this one. City struggled. Lots of blanks, and even that 0.5 is brought up by this sort of rogue 3-3. So yeah, really fancy Middlesbrough for this one. Don't like Man City. Time to get rid of One Shot for me, because he'll be suspended after this game anyway, which is annoying because they're at home to Charlton. So it might have been worth keeping him for a week if it wasn't for his red card. But yeah, he's going to have to go. Player stats, so completely dominated by Borough. This is just another illustration of how strong a game it is for them, and any of their attacking assets look good this week, really. Whelan on here, he played a few games, and but out of the few he did play, he scored a hat-trick twice, but it's pretty likely it'll be Boxic and Rickard up front, isn't it? But again, it's just an illustration of how strong it was for Middlesbrough, really. Charlton Leicester. So another good home game for Charlton. This one, they had attack at home. Leicester, I've got Leicester normal here. Leicester are one of the teams that sort of mix it up a bit. It's difficult to sim them consistently with their team instructions away from home. There's a fair chance that they'll actually play attacking in this game. But yeah, it could go either way. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. Say it's not, Leicester aren't set in stone, so they could play normal, or they could well play attacking, which would make it, kind of almost a rerun of the Charlton Watford game last week. So the sim data then, so yeah, it looks good for Charlton. As I say, they're attacking at home, so their average goal's not bad. 10 wins out of 20, 7 clean sheets. I don't think anyone knows Charlton defenders, but I take that with a little bit of a pinch of salt, because Leicester might come and attack rather than normal. And you can see here, it's evident in my sims really that sometimes they played attacking and sometimes they played normal, because they've scored 3 a couple of times here, and a handful of 2s as well. So yeah, it could. It's just something to bear in mind. This could be a little bit better for Leicester than this shows if they come and attack. But definitely looks good for Charlton either way. Top returners then. So Yule, as you'd expect, Hughes, Bartlett. Again, but if Leicester come and attack, then someone like Sturridge is still a good pick for this week. Would definitely play them if you've already got them, put it that way. Chelsea Millwall. So Chelsea would attack, Millwall would defend. Looks decent for Chelsea, as you'd expect. 17 wins, 11 clean sheets. But yeah, we had a red card affected game here that Millwall managed to win. So obviously that, if you take that out, it's even a little bit stronger for Chelsea. Millwall's 0.6 average. Without this sort of red card affected game, this is pretty much as low as you get for average goals from Millwall here. So good chance of a Chelsea clean sheet this week. They've got a few 3s, but we see with Chelsea, don't we? They don't seem to be that explosive. So there's no sort of 4, 5, 6s, but yeah, it's a strong game for Chelsea. And player returns. So again, this is more just an illustration of how strong the game is for Chelsea. Lampard's come out on top, but we see a lot of Chelsea's goals come from out wide. So you've got Zenden and Carboni sort of sharing some returns here. I think if it was me, I think Zenden and Carboni are the better picks. Lampard might do well in this game. It might be that it was a good matchup for him, but then in the longer term, he'll probably revert to type and not return too much. So if you want to attack this game, I'd say Zenden, Carboni or Gudjonsson are better picks than Lampard for this game, and then for the longer term it'll be better for you, I would say. And Leon Knight's appeared here, so I guess this is a kind of reminder that this is a potential Rep 12 game. Leon Knight played a few times and did pretty well. Although I did see on Luke's preview earlier, I noticed Andy Martin in the chat said because we've just had an international week, the chance of Rep 12 is lower. So, okay, that's interesting. Good news, I guess. So that's Chelsea Millwall. Everton Derby. Everton will attack at home. Derby will come and play the sort of normal passive tactic. And again, that's borne out in the data. Everton look good with their more attacking approach. They've scored 18. They've scored at least once 18 times out of 20. Won the game more often than not. Decent chance for clean sheet as well. So yeah, another sort of strong home game we've got this week. Player returns, so yeah, quite spread out. No huge numbers here, but which I think that's pretty much what I'd expect to see. Kevin Campbell on here. Di Matteo's a good player for them in midfield. GX. So yeah, I mean any Everton player you've got looks good this week, really. Ipswich Liverpool. So this is another one. Ipswich are another team that aren't sort of fixed with their instructions. So I think there's a fair chance that they'll also play attacking in this. This is their tactic for a tough home game, and sometimes Liverpool will come into that bracket and sometimes they won't. They're kind of on that sort of knife edge. But given that Millwall attacked Liverpool at home a couple of weeks ago, I think there's a good chance Ipswich will as well. So it could be that they both play attacking. So sim data then. So yeah, again, in my sims, sometimes Ipswich have played normal and sometimes they've played attacking. So just keep that in mind. We've also had 2 Ipswich wins that were red card affected. So yeah, the data for this isn't as strong as some of the other fixtures where you're sort of more certain about what will happen, and you've not had 2 sort of rogue wins for the underdog from a red card. But I think Liverpool are favourites. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Ipswich score sort of either way, really, whether they play attacking or normal. But I fancy Liverpool for the win. Player stats. So yeah, again, quite low numbers. I mean, Liverpool. I'd fancy Liverpool to win, but I wouldn't really fancy them to run riot. And as I've said many times before, Liverpool's returns are often spread out. When I compile the whole list of people that have returned, Liverpool's is more often than not the longest list of the lot, because of the way they sort of rotate their team and the way the goals tend to spread through the team. Okay, so that's Ipswich, Liverpool. I feel like I'm forgetting something with this. Oh, I know what it is. Yeah, so I saw on Luke's preview that Gerrard is injured and Biscan is orange flagged as well. So they might not have Gerrard or Biscan. They definitely won't have Gerrard. Man United Leeds. So Man United will attack at home as always, and Leeds will play defensively away against the top team as always. So yeah, looks good for Man United in terms of the tactic for sure. and that's borne out in the sim data. Really strong for Man United. Wouldn't count on Leeds this week at all. Really good average goals for Man United, 16 wins out of 20, 12 clean sheets. Barthez is injured though for this game, so they'll have Leal, I think it is, in goal, who's a young keeper. So his stats aren't brilliant, but I don't think it will stop Man United winning for sure. It might give Leeds a slightly better chance of scoring, but they'll probably only create 2 or 3 chances in the game, given their defensive setup. But I guess it gives them a slightly better chance of taking one of those. Player returns then, so Veron came out on top for me, but yeah, it's not a lot in it really. Any United attacking asset looks decent. Giggs, I do like Giggs though, because I think Giggs getting high returns here makes sense with something we've seen consistently, which is a fullback being isolated against 2 players. So in this example, it will be the way Leeds play with their wing backs. Kelly or Mabry, whoever plays, will be isolated on that side against Sylvester and Giggs, which is quite a scary prospect, isn't it? And we've seen it consistently, where when a fullback's isolated against a 4-4-2 or a formation that's got 2 players up against them, if those 2 players are any good, then that can be dangerous. So I think it makes sense here that Giggs is high on this list this week. So that's Man United Leeds. Newcastle Blackburn. Newcastle will attack at home, Blackburn will defend away. But it's churning out a fairly even set of results. Blackburn have got good players to deal with Newcastle's long ball tactic, haven't they? I mean, Shearer's obviously a beast in the air, but Blackburn have got defenders that are good in the air as well. I guess it makes sense that it kind of looks like this. It's a really tough one to call. When you've got a player like Shearer, as we said before, he's so good that he can win the game on his own potentially. But over the 20 sims, Blackburn did pretty well, given that they're away and playing defensive. Player returns, so it was all sort of Blackburn really. Janssen seemed to do well, and Duff, I mean, 6 is low numbers, but yeah, Janssen 13 returns. He did consistently well in this game. So yeah, maybe if you bought him in last week for the Ipswich game, and you were a bit unlucky there, maybe you get your reward this week. It looks pretty good for him, but never write Shearer off, especially at home. And Newcastle have got injuries as well, haven't they? So it was Robert injured. I think he was on 71% or something. So it might be one of those. Robert might be one of those where if he starts, he might come off early because he's right on the cusp of not being fit enough to play. And Carl Court was red flagged, so Carl Court won't be playing. So that won't help Newcastle either, because their replacements for him aren't as good in the air, which is important with their long ball tactic. Watford Spurs. So this should be another cracker involving Watford. Both teams will attack the game, and that normally means goals, goals, goals. And in the sim data, yeah, obviously Spurs are the better team, aren't they? The Spurs have got a lot of good attacking assets, so if they're going to go at each other, Spurs should come out on top, really. They've scored 3 times, once, twice, 3, 4, 5. Yes, another team this week that have scored 6 times, so that's really strong. They've only failed to score once. And then Watford, as I say, they're not quite as good as Spurs, but they will attack the game, and it will be an open game, so it can happen. 3-3, 4-3-3. So yeah, potential for a really high scoring game again. Player returns then, so yeah, as I say, any attacking asset you've got from either team, really good for this week. Make sure you start them. Picks of the week then, dominated by Man United. So really strong for Man United this week. Home to Leeds. It's just got everything going for them in terms of the setups. Lampard, as I mentioned, I mean, yeah, it might be that he's got a really good matchup this week, but thinking longer term than that, someone like Zenden or Carbone, Gudjonsson maybe would be a better pick than Lampard, really. And then Janssen, as I said, seemed to do well against Newcastle. So that's it. Good luck with the game week. As always, watch Luke's preview as well. Wait for the scout leak before you make any transfers, all that kind of thing. You know the drill. Good luck with the game week, guys. Happy New Year, and see you next week.